This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with Billy Idol guitarist and solo artist, Billy Morrison. If I knew absolutely nothing about Billy Morrison, how would you describe your music to me?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I think I would have to say there's a lot of anger and frustration and a sonic, God, I'm going to sound so up my own ass. It's a sonic tapestry. And the reason I describe it like that is because there's EDM beats and there's metal guitars and there's punk rock anger and there's a piano ballad. So it really is a sonic tapestry based around anger and frustration.
I'd have to agree there's a lot of layers in your music, especially on your latest album, The Morrison Project, which came out April 19th through the Label Group and Virgin Music Group. Your last solo album was back in 2015, God-Shaped Hole. Had you been working on this latest album, The Morrison Project, since 2015?
No, what I need to make clear is I have no designs on having a huge solo career. I'm a musician and above all a creative person. And so I do what creative people do, which is in my downtime, I use the studio that's in my house and I create. And I have zero idea of what I'm doing or whether I'm making a record. And I've been busy since the last album. And this Morrison Project album came out because, oh, look, I've got 12 songs that sound really good and I've got a few of my friends on it. There's no master plan involved here.
And you had a little bit of downtime with all the lockdowns and all the bullshit going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I do when I am forced to take a breath. You know, normally my life is I'm touring with Billy Idol and I'm painting because I have a fine art career and I have a girlfriend and, you know, that's a full life. And when they lock you down, I've got a painting studio and a music studio in my house. So that's what I'm going to do. What I eventually realized is a good portion of the work I did throughout COVID was actually good. And I stood by it and it represented something that I wanted to share with the world. So that's when I started collating all the ideas together and putting it in a cohesive body of work. And then it came out.
You mentioned the Morrison Project has some guest stars on it, but you have some main collaborators. Eric Eldinius and Jordy White are your main collaborators, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the way it worked is that Eric and Jordy didn't live too far from me, and we were all being safe in COVID, and it seemed like a great idea I mean, they were feeling the frustration as much as I was. I'm the guy with the studio in the house. Well, I mean, Eric has a great studio, but it's drum-based. And so, you know, they would come over, and again, we were just having fun. We weren't even writing full songs. You know, I would have been messing around with a hip hop beat because I love hip hop. And Jordy would come over and go, oh, dude, I've got these great bass riffs. And then Eric, who's a great piano player, would say, what about this over the top? And then we'd stop. We'd have a minute of music and we'd just stop. And over the course of COVID, we ended up with a lot of sections of songs and a few completed ones. And then I got the message from Sharon that she thought that I should put Crack Cocaine out as a single. And I didn't just want to do it as a standalone track. So I thought, okay, I've got a song with Ozzy and Steve Stevens, and I've got all this great body of work. And that's when I started singing on some myself. And then the ones that I don't sing on are really the songs that I wanted to serve the song. And it was clear that I wasn't going to sing a piano ballad. But Linda Perry, who's a good friend of mine, perhaps she would. So I would text her. And the Al Jurgensen song was a Ministry song that I submitted for the last Ministry album that never made the record. So, of course, it sounds like Ministry. You know, it was a very organic process, George.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up because my next question was going to be, did you intend it to be a guest starring album? But it seems like it kind of developed
Yeah.
with your friendships with these artists. So I know you broke down each track on SiriusXM satellite radio, and people can search the app to actually find down your whole breakdown. But let's talk a little bit
Yeah.
of a couple of the songs. Crack
Sure.
Cocaine seems to be doing really well for you right now, and it features Ozzy Osbourne, Steve Stevens, and Tommy Cleftos, as you mentioned. Ozzy sang on your last album. He sang the song Gods as well, and you two are close friends. You host a show called Ozzy Speaks as well. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how Crack Cocaine came together beyond Sharon suggesting you guys do it together?
Sure. You know, my friendship with Ozzy is way more than we're musicians. We're more best friends. And so we don't really hang out writing music together. But obviously, if you're friends with someone for 30 years and you're both musicians, there will be occasional times where I've got a guitar in my hand and he sings to it. And I'm like, dude, that's really good. So occasionally throughout the years, we've made some music together. This was something that Steve Stevens and I were just literally messing around. And it started, we tuned the guitars down to C, right? Which is an Aussie tuning. And it makes the pinch harmonics very easy. And we were just messing around together, and the riff kind of came together. And Steve looked at me and went, "You know, you've got to call the Prince of Darkness now. We've got a good Aussie riff here." And so Aussie came round, and it was the three of us in Steve's studio with no idea what we were doing other than three friends hanging out making some music. And I do believe that that's why it came out sounding so good. We were not paying attention to tone or song structure or anything that you do when you're making a record. We were just having a laugh. But Ozzy, what people don't realize about Ozzy, it takes him about 20 minutes to sing a song. He is such an icon that he opens his mouth when that green light goes on, and that's your vocal take. So he's hanging out and he's like, "Oh yeah, what about if it did this? What about if it did that?" And then we put a mic on him. That's the vocal. That's what you hear. It was more like a demo that came out sounding really good. And we mixed it. Barry Pointer mixed it and made it sound really good.
A lot of work into the music video too. You cast
Yeah.
Paris Jackson into this. Did you have anything to do with the casting, or did you just show up and be like, "Hey, Paris Jackson's here"?
I had pretty much everything to do with everything. I My girlfriend is a visual artist, and so between us, we concocted a story and a basic premise, and we knew we wanted to cast a female to represent the love that Ozzy's singing about. Because no, people, it's not about drugs; it's about relationships. And we had a mutual friend. Paris and I had a mutual friend, and I got connected with Paris. She loves rock music. She loves Ozzy, and she said, "Of course, I'll do it." But that video really was way more than the whole record audio put together. That was a lot of hard work, but it came out good.
You have a new video actually debuting today for It's Come to This, and that's
Yeah.
actually a song that you sing. Why don't we talk a little bit about the song first? Tell me about It Comes to This.
Yeah, that was a very dystopian song. I was having fantasies during COVID. I mean, you can see my house. I've got fine art. I like a bit of bling. I've got a nice car. So I've got the trappings. And I was just going, none of this makes me happy. I just want to sell it all and drive into the desert and find a deeper, more spiritual reason for being here. Because it can't just all be about paying the mortgage and buying another piece of art. You know what I mean? And I was really doing some soul searching, and the song came together really quickly. Eric had a little riff, and I took that and wrote those words. And then we went out into the desert with Joe Manganiello, who's a good friend, and he's a rock fan. and we had a great time. Ivo Raza, who directed that video, he actually makes real movies, right? He's not a music video director, but another rock fan and a good friend. So we made this little mini movie, and it came out about an hour ago. So we'll see.
You mentioned your love of hip hop. You have Daryl McDaniel of Run DMC on the track Just Like a Movie. Actually, one of my favorite tracks from the song, if you want to talk about that song and how it all came together.
It came together because I love hip hop. I truly believe that hip hop was just another reincarnation of punk rock. But punk was it was an attitude, not a haircut. You know, it was more about a group of youths that were disenfranchised with what was going on around them. So they spoke out through music. Well, what was hip hop? It was exactly the same. It was a different demographic saying exactly the same thing. You can't shut us up. We have some issues and we're going to tell you about them. And so I gravitated towards that attitude. Now, through my career, I've been lucky enough to play with and make friends with a few of the great hip hop legends, D being one of them. So I had this song, instrumental only, and the beat was fantastic. And I'm like, I can hear D's voice. I'm lucky enough that the guests on my album, I didn't go through managers or agents. They're all in my phone. They're all people that I text, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And they all said yes. So I just texted D, listen, I don't know whether I'm doing a whole record or not, but I've got this track. And he did it. And I will tell you, there's I'm not going to say who with, but there's another track that isn't on the album that I've just finished with some other hip hop legends that I am working out how and when to release that in conjunction with Just Like a Movie. We've shot a video for Just Like a Movie. I flew to New York. Me and Dee spent the day in Brooklyn. It's a great video, and maybe there's a hip hop 12-inch vinyl coming your way soon. I don't know.
Mr. Dream features Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, your bandmates. Was this a Billy Idol song that wasn't used?
Hell no. No, this was because I was sitting on 11 songs, and it was very clear by his absence that I needed Billy on the record. I don't like to ask, you know, Billy's my boss. In Billy Idol, it says Billy Idol on the marquee, not Billy Morrison. So I'm very aware of not asking him for too much because he gives me so much just with being in the band for 15 years. But when you're sitting looking at Ozzy and DMC and Al Jurgensen and Linda Perry, and they're all well-known friends of mine, and Idol's not on the record, I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a 12-song record. And I asked him if he would do a track. He said absolutely, because he's a generous man. And then I didn't have a song. So back to the drawing board, wrote the song, sent it to Steve. And Steve's very good at arrangements. And he did some more arranging, put some guitar down. And then we got Billy to sing on it. So no, that was the very last song I put on the album.
You mentioned the piano ballad with Linda Perry. That's another great song. If you want to talk about how you got Linda involved.
Yeah, that was Linda doesn't do this kind of stuff very much. You know, she's too busy winning Grammys, you know, to be honest with you. But Linda and I have a very close relationship. She's very special to me. She's given me a lot of advice over the years, and I've known her for decades. And so I asked her if she would consider singing a song on my album. She said, well, send me the song. So I had to sing it in demo form because I wrote the whole song, lyrics, melody, music, the whole thing. And so first of all, that version of the song will never be heard by anyone because no one wants to hear me singing that. But I did sing it for her to give her an idea. And I expected Linda to say, oh, okay, well, come over. We'll deconstruct it. I'll sprinkle my magic all over it and we'll make it a song. And her response was, this is a perfect song. I don't want to do anything to it. I'm just going to sing it exactly as you've written it, which for a songwriter to hear from one of the world's greatest songwriters is an accolade that I never thought I would get. So Linda just sang what I wrote and absolutely nailed it. Very Bowie, that song.
And it's funny you made the statement about Linda Perry winning Grammys, and I don't actually ever bring this up with anybody that I've ever interviewed. Is I feel like you should submit this album for a Grammy nomination, either the album or one of the songs, because it's actually that good. And I'm not a big
Wow.
Grammy guy itself. I feel like it's a big ass kissing contest, but this is a really good album. I feel like it falls into the category of the Grammys.
I have so many thoughts right now. First of all, I'm so grateful for you to say that. It's an album that I'm proud of, but you know, the whole Grammy thing, I think everyone thinks it's a whole ass kissing contest until you get the email saying you've been nominated for a Grammy, and then it becomes quite special. It definitely is, love it or hate it, one of the music business institutions' most prestigious recognition that you can get. So having said that, I don't even know how to submit songs for a Grammy. So you know what? We have Crack Cocaine has been nominated for an Independent Music Award, which is in July, and I will be attending that. I'm very honored, and I just leave that stuff up to the music gods. It has been mentioned to me by other people, the word Grammy, and I'm a sideman. I'm the guy that helps Billy Idol be Billy Idol. So it's so beyond my record, my wheelhouse to even think about that. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. But right now, I'm just happy the record's out and people are enjoying it.
You just completed a little tour with Billy Idol throughout the month of May. How did that go?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I mean, what could not be great about playing Rebel Yell and White Wedding to sold out audiences everywhere we go? There is nothing like it. Billy and Steve are the greatest people to be in bands with. I'm treated as an equal. I've written songs now with them. There's no stand at the back. You know, I'm a part of the Billy Idol experience and have been for 15 years, and I'm forever grateful for that. So anytime we get out on the road, it's always fun. It's always tiring. It's always boring in places, but that's what touring is. That's the job. But for those 90 minutes, it's pretty special.
What are the chances of getting some shows together to perform your solo material?
You know, it's funny you should say that. I've been saying no to everyone. And then last week I started saying, well, maybe tell me how that would work. So the powers that be are looking into the possibility. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not saying no now. It might be something fun to do. I just can't look, I can't play Crack Cocaine live because there's no one. I'm not going to sing it. It's an Ozzy vocal. Ozzy can't go on the road right now. So it does depend on what I would do. However, there's 6 songs on that album that I do sing, and there's a whole album before that I do sing, and maybe I'm being persuaded to do it. I don't know. We'll see.
So you mentioned that you also do painting and artwork. I don't know if that's your artwork behind you. Looks fantastic. Either way, how'd you get into that?
That's me, but that one's Keith Haring, and that one's Black Lorette. So you know, art and music for me are intertwined because when I was about 10 years old, someone played me the Velvet Underground and showed me the coffee table book of Andy Warhol and explained how Andy was inextricably linked with the Velvet Underground. And a few years later, the Pistols came out, and that was all. The Sex Pistols was all about the artwork, which was Jamie Reed, and that was it. I see art and music as one thing, so it was only a matter of time. I just didn't know I could do it myself. I've been buying fine art for years, but Ozzy persuaded me to try it, and I haven't looked back since. And I'm very fortunate. I have a worldwide base of collectors that continually buy my paintings. I'm a gallery artist. and there's a lot happening in that arena too. I'm a very busy man, George.
Are you selling your prints at Billy Idol gigs too?
No, 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 no. There's a certain amount of respect. I have a T-shirt. They allow me to sell a T-shirt on the merch booth, which is very generous to them based on, you know, music. I'm the guitar player, so I get to sell a bit of merch. But no, I would never cross-pollinate. It again, it says Billy Idol. It doesn't say Billy Morrison. In my own time, I can put Billy Morrison on the marquee, but no.
You do have a radio program on Ozzy's Boneyard, Channel 38, called Influence. What is that program about?
That's a labor of love. You know, I've been doing Ozzy Speaks with Ozzy for 6 years or something, and we have a blast doing it. And Sirius suggested, you know, apparently they like my radio style. I think what they like about me is that I can talk with Ozzy non-stop because we're best friends. You know, I'm nothing special on the radio, but they've got someone that can translate Ozzy and do a show with him, so they're happy. But they came to me and said, you know, what about doing your own show? And I've always loved the lineage of rock music. If you're a Guns N' Roses fan, you have to know about the New York Dolls, the MC5, Iggy Pop. You know, if you're a Ministry fan or Nine Inch Nails fan, you have to understand Gary Newman and Killing Joke and you know, I could go and Psychic TV, all these bands that no one's ever heard of. That's where Al Jurgensen got it from, is listening to Killing Joke, you know, or Gary Newman. Trent Reznor's the first person to say that Gary Newman was his main influence. I ran into Marilyn Manson at an Adam Ant show here in New York, and we were here in LA, and we were talking about, he said, I would never miss an Adam Ant show. He was the inspiration behind Beautiful People. So Influenced is a show where I get to talk about, I'll play the Nine Inch Nails song, and then I'll play a Gary Newman song. And I talk about, if you listen to the bass line, listen to the synths on that song, you can hear it. And it's tracing the lineage of the bands we love today.
It sounds like an interesting program. I'm going to have to check that one out.
Check it out.
Are you working on any other music projects besides your solo stuff and Billy Idol?
No, I really don't have time. I mean, the labels are already talking to me about doing Morrison Project 2, and we're not even halfway through the cycle of Morrison Project 1. But I do have that other hip hop song that I was telling you about. And, you know, there's only so many hours in the day, George. I just got off tour yesterday. I have a slate of 11 paintings that I've got to paint. So, you know, and then I'm off to Mexico with Idol. And like life is, you know, I don't think I've got any more headspace right now.
How about new Billy Idol music?
That's coming. That's coming. And you would have to ask Billy about that. But, you know, he's been on stage every night saying, I've got a new album coming out in October, so it's no secret. But yes, there's new Billy Idol music coming.
Well, Billy, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new Billy Morrison album is the Morrison Project. It's fantastic. I would encourage anybody to check it out. It's out now through the label group, Virgin Music Group. I wish you the best of luck with it, Billy, and I hope to talk to you more in the future about your future music and your future projects. And thanks for taking the time to speak with KNAC.com about it today.
Thank you for supporting, George.